shadows of the iron sights, the deadliest rifles of World War II. Imagine standing in a silent forest where the only sound is the beating of your own heart. You are not a soldier in a trench, you are a ghost. Somewhere in the gray fog, a single eye is watching you through a glass lens. A finger tightens on a cold steel trigger. In a fraction of a second, your life ends before you even hear the crack of the rifle. This was the terrifying reality of the sniper war. Today, we go beyond the metal and wood to explore the instruments of death that redefined the battlefield. These are not just guns. They are the legends that claimed thousands of souls. Let us step into the shadows. The Soviet Union began the war with a weapon that many considered a relic. The Mosin Nagant M9130 was born from a 19th century competition between Sergei Mosin and Leon Nagant. By 1930, it had been modernized, but it remained a rugged, brutal tool. It was a bolt-action rifle, chambered in the powerful 7.62 by 54 mm rimmed cartridge. It was long, heavy, and punishing to shoot. Yet, in the hands of a Soviet sniper, it became a surgical instrument. During the desperate days of the Eastern Front, Soviet factories would test thousands of rifles. Only those that showed exceptional grouping were pulled aside. These chosen few were fitted with the PU, or PE optical sights. The PU scope, introduced in 1942, was simple and low-powered, but it was incredibly durable. It was offset to the left, allowing the sniper to still use stripper clips to reload the 5-round magazine. Soviet doctrine was different from any other. They deployed snipers at every level, from companies to battalions. They didn't just use men. Over 2,000 women served as snipers, driven by a fierce desire to defend their motherland. Think of Vasily Zaitsev, who turned the ruins of Stalingrad into a graveyard for German officers. Think of Lyudmila Pavlichenko, the Lady Death, who recorded 309 confirmed kills. For these snipers, the Mosin Nagant was an extension of their will. It was crude, it was loud, but it never failed. However, the Mosin Nagant met its match in the frozen forests of the north. When the Soviet Union invaded Finland, they expected a quick victory. Instead, they met the White Death. The Finnish snipers used rifles derived from the Russian design, but refined with obsessive precision. The M2830 and the later M39 were the pinnacle of Finnish gunsmithing. They had heavier barrels, improved stocks, and triggers that felt like breaking glass. Simo Heiha, the most lethal sniper in history, chose the Finnish M2830. He famously refused to use a scope. He knew that a scope forced a shooter to raise their head higher, making them a target. He knew that the winter sun reflecting off glass would give away his position. Using only iron sights, in temperatures far below zero, Heiha recorded over 500 kills in less than 100 days. He would keep snow in his mouth to hide the steam of his breath. He was a shadow in a white landscape, a reminder that the person behind the rifle matters more than the optics on top of it. Across Europe, the German Wehrmacht relied on a masterpiece of engineering, the Karabiner 98K. This was the descendant of the Mauser 98, perhaps the most influential bolt-action design in history. The Kar 98K was shorter and more balanced than its predecessor. It used a controlled feed action with dual locking lugs, making it incredibly strong and reliable. Chambered in the 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser, it had the stopping power to drop a target instantly. German snipers were products of elite schools. They were taught to be invisible. They were issued rifles fitted with Zeiss optics, like the ZF-39 or the later turret-mounted ZF-42. These scopes provided 4 to 6 times magnification with unmatched clarity. German snipers like Matthias Hetzenauer and Joseph Allerberger were cold and efficient. They were used to hold back entire Allied advances, firing from hidden positions in clock towers or deep within hedgerows. To the Allies, the crack of a Mauser was the sound of certain death. While the Germans and Soviets focused on precision, the British Commonwealth looked for a balance of speed and accuracy. The Lee-Enfield No. 4 Mark I ton was an evolution of a rifle that had served since the Victorian era. The Lee-Enfield system was unique because of its rear locking lugs and a short bolt throw. This allowed a trained soldier to fire much faster than anyone using a Mauser or a Mosin. The T variant was the sniper version, hand-selected for its accuracy. It carried a 10-round detachable magazine, double the capacity of its enemies. The No. 32 scope offered a clear view, though it was mounted to the left to allow for iron sight use. British snipers worked in two-man teams, emphasizing patience and fieldcraft. They were the silent watchers of the desert in North Africa and the dense forests of Normandy. The Lee-Enfield was a gentleman's rifle used for a very ungentlemanly business. Across the Atlantic, the United States was forced to play catch-up. The Americans entered the war with the M1903 Springfield. It was a design so similar to the Mauser that the US government had to pay royalties to Germany before the war. The M1903A4 was the first standardized sniper version, but it was a rushed design. It had no iron sights and used a low-powered Weaver scope that was often prone to fogging. The US Marine Corps, however, wanted more. They took the older M1903A1 and fitted it with a massive 8x Untertitel scope. This was a target scope, long and fragile, but it allowed Marines to hit targets at staggering distances in the Pacific. Imagine a Marine scout sniper, sweating in the jungle heat, tracking a Japanese officer through that long glass tube. It was a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek, where the loser never got a second chance. By 1944, the Americans realized that the era of the bolt action was ending. They developed sniper versions of the semi-automatic M1 Garand, known as the M1C and M1D. These rifles allowed for rapid follow-up shots without the shooter having to move their hand to work a bolt. While they saw limited action in World War II, they became the backbone of American precision fire in the Korean War. They proved that volume of fire could be just as deadly as a single, perfect shot. In the Pacific, the Imperial Japanese Army had its own terrifying specialists. The Arisaka Type 97 was a dedicated sniper rifle based on the Type 38 infantry rifle. It fired a 6.5mm bullet that produced very little muzzle flash or smoke, making it extremely difficult to locate the shooter. Japanese snipers were known for their fanatical bravery. They would climb to the tops of palm trees and lash themselves to the trunk, staying there until they were killed. They didn't care about retreating. Their mission was to take as many enemies with them as possible before the end. Italy, too, had its marksmen, using the Carcano M9138. Though often criticized, the Carcano was a light and effective carbine. In the hands of a trained shooter, its 6.5mm round was flat-shooting and accurate. Years later, this same model of rifle would be used in one of the most famous assassinations in history, cementing its place in the dark pages of the 20th century. But perhaps the most brutal weapon of all was the Soviet PTRS-41. This was not a traditional sniper rifle. It was a monster designed to kill tanks. Over 6 feet long and weighing nearly 50 pounds, it fired a massive 14.5mm round. When the armor of German tanks became too thick, Soviet snipers turned these anti-tank rifles against infantry. It was a weapon of pure terror, used to destroy bunkers and heavy machine gun nests from over a kilometer away. As the smoke of World War II cleared, these rifles left a blood-stained legacy. They were the tools that shaped the maps of nations. Behind every confirmed kill was a story of a person who had to become a machine, who had to detach themselves from humanity to do a job that no one else could. These rifles are now pieces of history, cold and silent. But if you listen closely to the echoes of the past, you can still hear the phantom click of a bolt and the whisper of a bullet in the wind. Which of these legendary weapons would you trust your life to? The rugged Mosin, the precise Mauser, or the rapid Lee-Enfield? The choice defines the soldier. Thank you for walking through the shadows with us. If you felt the tension of the sniper's nest, make sure to like and subscribe. The battlefield has many more stories to tell. We will see you in the next one.